All right, good morning, Chair Postman, Member Garrett, staff and guests. The lobby's open and the recording has begun.
Thanks, Justin. Good morning, everybody. We will convene the Liquor and Cannabis Board Caucus meeting for Tuesday, September 13th, 2022. Our first item is a review of a cannabis compact with the Spokane tribe, and we will have Chris Thompson, our legislative director and tribal liaison, present that to us. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board Member Garrett. Pleasure to be with you this morning. Really excited for the reason we are with you this morning. The Spokane Tribe of Indians and the LCB have negotiated a proposed cannabis compact as a result of a long-term effort. I was on an interim basis even 4 years ago, serving temporarily as the tribal liaison, and even back then we were working with the Spokane tribe on a compact. So this is a 4+ year effort come to fruition, and so we're very excited about that. One factor that helped us reach this point was the efforts of the Spokane tribe's chairwoman, Carol Evans, connecting with and opening up conversations with Chairman Postman. Another important factor getting us to the finish line here was action by the legislature in the recently completed, well, recently it's September, this year's legislative session. See how time warps sometimes. So I'll provide a few details and a little bit of 10,000-foot elevation perspective here. One of the important specific issues that has been under discussion that was challenging but resolved here in interesting, important ways, it concerns dispute resolution. So our Assistant Attorney General, Leo Rainilla, put together a new, fresh approach, some restructuring and some new provisions for dispute resolution for the agency to look at and consider working with tribes. And that kind of fresh approach to dispute resolution largely is reflected in the proposal before you, based substantially on the document that Leo put together, but also negotiated with Spokane Tribe's attorney, Scott Wheat, and Leo, some other provisions. Basically, a couple of examples. What's in here, this does provide for binding arbitration, and that's something that's not in quite a number of the previously approved cannabis compacts with tribes. That provision on arbitration, binding arbitration, has a carve out for questions of law. So that was an important interest of ours that the tribe was agreeable to, so that the arbitrator cannot decide questions of law, either federal, state, or tribal law. So that's an important factor in how this is set up in the proposal. There are a couple of other differences between this dispute resolution language and that which was in the HO compact that you looked at recently, but I don't think I really need to point out those differences, although I can if you like. They concern a little bit of different language in there in terms of remedies and defense of the compact. So there, the Spokane proposed compact includes basically what was already in our template that wasn't in the HO compact, around both sides defending the authority to enter into this agreement if it's ever challenged. So that's dispute resolution. That was a very important issue to the tribe. The LCB has moved in terms of policy and toward what we think is a better basis for the relationship that includes these features of dispute resolution. And so it's a win-win, I think, fair to say on that. Second major topic here I want to talk about is the comma. So we've talked a lot about this issue, and this proposed compact does have the comma. Let me explain briefly what that refers to. This deals with the scope of allowable tax exemptions that a tribe may offer under a compact. And this was a key issue that we and the Spokane tribe have talked about since way back, 4 years or so. It's been a topic of discussion, and the action taken by the legislature this year in the 2022 session showed the pathway to a really positive resolution of those differences. Basically, the comma that was not previously in law, in our view, now is in law by virtue of House Bill 1210 passed this year. And with that comma included, we see the statute as authorizing 3 categories of tax exemption the tribes may choose to offer, rather than the 2 previously. And the third and the new one that is in the statute, we believe now, finally, as of June 9th of this year, an exemption that would allow the tribe to exempt from the tribal cannabis tax sales on cannabis grown, produced, or processed within Indian country. And we think this provides for a fuller recognition of tribal sovereignty, as well as resolving an ambiguity in state law that has been a bone of contention and a source of friction in our relationships, and that is now resolved here. So I think that's also clearly a win-win. Moving on to other provisions of the compact, I won't go into a lot of detail. I'll just say this compact envisions, authorizes retail, production, and processing activities by the tribe. It includes a prohibition on drive-through service at retail, which is important to U.S. attorneys, at least in Western Washington. I mean, this would be only our second cannabis compact with a tribe in Eastern Washington, but we've certainly heard from the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Western Washington that this is a really important priority for them. So that's in here. This compact also makes the shift in terminology from away from marijuana toward cannabis, and we appreciate that as well. This one also has, and it relates to some of what I've already discussed. It includes a definition that's not elsewhere in other compacts in the definition section for the phrase questions of law. And so that key term in this proposed compact is defined as a legal issue, the resolution of which requires the interpretation or application of legal authority, and which, were the issue presented in a court, would be within the sole province of a judge to resolve. So that's in keeping with the new approach under dispute resolution, and I think that's a positive addition that will help potentially in the future as well. Final comment that I'll share with the board is that unfortunately only recently came to my attention that, or did I realize that in the course of negotiating to resolution on these really big issues that I've been talking about, one minor technical little issue slipped through the cracks, and that is we neglected to update the obsolete language from our template that refers to the traceability system, which we retired. So Ideally, perhaps a way could be found to make that little fix without too much of a delay in the process. It's strictly a technical matter of updating obsolete references to the traceability system and the attached 24-hour reporting cycle. And as you know, now with CCRS, we have a reporting system, not a traceability system, and those reports are required weekly, not every 24 hours. So if there's an opportunity, we'd like to make those technical fixes as well. And I'll conclude there and see if you have any questions.
Thanks, Chris. On the last thing you were just talking about, so what is the preferred path here? What are we going to do to update that obsolete language?
Well, my recommendation would be to stick with the current schedule. We are scheduled for the board to bring this up for potential action at the meeting tomorrow. My recommendation would be that as the board acts on this proposed cannabis compact, that basically the motion be, after those obsolete references are fixed, the board would approve with that understanding that that technical fix would be made prior to signature and transmission to the governor's office. What we would then logistically do is make those fixes in the document, get original signatures from the tribe again, then bring that back to the board and the director of LCB for signature prior to transmitting to the governor's office.
Great, but it wouldn't take a second vote. We can vote tomorrow and say contingent on that update, then the members would sign.
I have put that question to our AAGs, and I've not heard about a concern with that process, but I haven't absolutely confirmed with them that there is no legal concern, whatever, and so I will do that prior to us
Great.
getting to tomorrow and let you and the staff know.
Yeah, I did hear from one. I think we got a response back, but let's make sure before we do
Oh,
that.
okay, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I think there was a response this morning, at least from one attorney. So let's take, thanks for this one. It was a long time coming and got sort of stuck for a while, but I appreciate your continued creativity and commitment to this. You and Leo both really got us to where we are. And it's not lost on me that once this was completed, you announced you were retiring. So I guess once you finish this, there was just nothing left for you, Chris. So
yeah, it's the pinnacle.
Yeah. But yeah, good work on this. Appreciate that. And of course, appreciate the good government to government relationship we have with the Spokanes and the chairwoman, of course. Any questions, Member Garrett? No. Okay, great. Well, then we will see you tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have a clear path for how to keep this thing moving in a good pace.
All right. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, we now will turn to Dr. Kathy Hoffman and her team for other prep for tomorrow's board meeting. Good morning.
Thank you, Chair Postman. Good morning, Board Member Garrett. Rather than going through the entire rules in progress update, I'm going to save that for the board meeting tomorrow. I think our team's met with you pretty consistently over the last 2 weeks, so you have a pretty good idea of where we are with rule development, but we'll share that publicly tomorrow, as long as, in addition to some other information I'll be sharing as well regarding our team. But I'll just hand it over to Audrey so she can brief you on what she'll be offering, and then Robert will follow her, and then I'll follow up with a little bit of prep for the hearing tomorrow morning. So Go ahead, Audrey.
Thanks, Kathy. Good morning, Chair Postman, Board Member Garrett. So tomorrow I will be presenting the staff recommendation on the rule petition the board received on July 28th from Keith Laurent on behalf of the Vancouver Elks. So today I'll just give a brief summary and save the bulk of the presentation for tomorrow. So the issue presented by this petition is whether the board should initiate the rulemaking process to consider amending existing rules to allow private clubs to add additional membership drives and host consecutive membership drives where club liquor may be given or sold as part of the membership drive activities. So a private club is defined in statute as an organization of persons, incorporated or unincorporated, operated solely for fraternal, benevolent, educational, athletic, or social purposes and not for pecuniary gain. Under the current rules, private clubs are generally not allowed to serve alcohol during events that are open to the public. However, WAC 314-40040 sub 6, which is the subject of this rule petition request, provides an exception for alcohol service at public membership drives where the purpose is to, quote, recruit new members and build club membership, end quote. So if a private club wants to hold a membership drive where club liquor may be given or sold to those attending, they're allowed to do so 1 day per calendar quarter for a total of 4 times per year, but not on consecutive days. So for background, this rule section was last amended in 2017 in response to a rule petition, and the number of membership drives allowed was increased from 2 days per calendar year to the current number of 1 day per calendar quarter, or 4 times a year. So in discussing this petition with agency staff from the Enforcement and Education Division, Licensing Division, and our Public Health and Education Liaison, we found there are a number of issues to consider when evaluating the risks and benefits of this request, such as potential public health and safety impacts and potential impacts to agency resources. So I'll touch on those briefly. With respect to the first issue, potential public health and safety impacts, membership drives where club liquor can be provided to the general public may have a greater public health and safety impact than a typical private club event where alcohol is not allowed to be provided to the general public. If large numbers of the general public visit a private club during a membership drive, the potential risk for overservice of alcohol, alcohol-related disorderly conduct, impaired driving, and youth access may increase at the licensed location. So if rulemaking is initiated on this subject, agency staff find it will be important to work with stakeholders to explore ways to mitigate those concerns. And this ties into the second issue, the potential agency resource impacts. So given those public health and safety concerns, additional LCB enforcement and education staff time may be needed to visit public membership drive events in person and work with private clubs on education and compliance. So again, agency staff find it will be important to work with stakeholders to explore ways that we can provide education and assist with compliance if rulemaking is initiated. So as identified in this petition, the main benefit of the request will be to allow clubs to do more outreach, potentially increasing their membership numbers. With respect to this point, agency staff would also like to note that the board regulations in WAC 314-40040 only impact membership drives that involve alcohol. So private clubs can hold as many membership drives as they would like, as long as alcohol is not part of the membership drive activities. But considering all of these potential risks and benefits, director's office staff find that opening up the subject for inquiry and public discussion would be worthwhile and recommend that the board accept this petition. So that concludes my presentation on this subject. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I've got one. How many of these clubs are there?
I don't know the number on the top of my head, but I can follow up. I do have that data and I can send it to you.
Great. Okay. Yeah. Or for tomorrow would be fine.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions on this one? No. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Okay, and I can move on to the next item I'll be presenting tomorrow, which is the board adoption of CR 103 for implementing 2022 legislation, Senate Bill 5940. So this was the bill that created a new contract packaging services endorsement for breweries, wineries, and distilleries. So under this new endorsement, breweries, wineries, and distilleries can contract with each other to provide certain packaging services such as canning, bottling, bagging, mixing, and repacking. The board filed the CR 101 on April 27th to consider creating new rule sections and amending existing rule sections as needed to implement the bill. To develop the rule language, we held a series of internal project team meetings with LCB staff from the Licensing Division, Enforcement and Education Division, and Finance Division. The conceptual draft rules were shared publicly for feedback through Gov Delivery in June, and comments on the draft rules that the agency received were included as an attachment to the CR 102 memo. On July 20th, the board filed the CR 102 rule proposal, and no public comments were received during the public comment period from July 20th to August 31st, 2022. The final rules before you today for adoption, the final rules that will be before you tomorrow for adoption are the same as those proposed rules. So there were no changes between the two. So in summary, the final rules create 3 new rule sections, amend 1 existing rule section. The 3 new rule sections describe the new endorsement and how to submit an application for the endorsement. 1 section is going into the breweries chapter, 1 into the wineries chapter, and 1 into the distilleries chapter. And the existing rule section that is being amended, WAC through and 411.065, will align that existing rule with the new endorsement by allowing endorsement holders to keep other types of liquor on the premises as needed to provide these contract packaging services. So if the board adopts the rules tomorrow, the effective date will be 31 days later, or October 15th, 2022. So that concludes my presentation on the CR 103, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I don't have any. Seeing none. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
great. Thank
That's
you.
all I have for today.
All right.
All right, and Robert, there you are.
Good morning.
Thank you, Kathy. And good morning, Chair Postman and Board Member Garrett. For the rule project to identify and further define terms related to the production and processing of cannabis products, at tomorrow's board meeting, I will ask for approval to withdraw the CR 101. For background, the board adopted new WAC section 314 55-560 concerning the evaluation of additives, solvents, ingredients, or compounds used in the production of cannabis products on January 5th, 2022, so earlier this year. And these rules became effective on February 5th and defined the terms additive, solvent, ingredient, and compound. During the 2022 legislative session, agency bill request was introduced that included additional definitions related to the production and processing of cannabis products. This legislation was ultimately not enacted during the session. So this CR 101 was filed on May 11th of this year to explore creating new, amending, or repealing existing rule sections WAC 314 55-560 and 314 55-010, which deals with definitions, as necessary to identify and further define terms, including but not limited to additives, solvents, ingredients, compounds, or concentrates used in the production and processing of cannabis products. So after reviewing the conceptual draft rules shared with the public and considering the totality of public comments received, included with the withdrawal memo as attachment C and D, agency staff find that additional definitions related to the production and/or processing of cannabis products should be introduced through legislation and are recommending withdrawal of the CR 101. So if the board approves withdrawal of the CR 101 tomorrow, it will be filed with the code revisor for publication in the state register. The public webpage will also be updated and a notice will be sent to stakeholders through Gov Delivery. So let me pause and check if the board has any questions.
Nope, not at this point.
Okay, well, thank you again for your time, and I'm looking forward to the board meeting tomorrow.
Great. See you then. Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay. Is that it?
One more.
Okay.
We do have the public hearing on
Oh, yeah,
our social
that.
equity rule proposal. Yes,
Yes.
that will, I think, be, I think it's positioned at the end of the agenda. And I won't get into all the details of background because I think we're all well versed in that, and I think the folks listening in today are as well. But just briefly, we started this project in October of last year. Filed an original proposal, so original rule set in April, mid-April. We withdrew that in May to do some additional work. I brought a CR 102, an updated CR 102 proposal to you on August 3rd, and our hearing on that updated proposal is tomorrow. So to date, we've received a total of 12 written comments. I believe we have some people signed up for public testimony tomorrow online.
Not many, but.
Not
Yeah.
many, right? And then there may be some individuals who show up for public comment tomorrow live. So assuming that all goes well, and we don't make any changes to the rules, we can bring, the earliest we can bring a proposal to you, I'm sorry, rules for adoption to you is September 28th. But I think under the circumstances and making sure that we have everything in place, more realistically, we're proposing to bring the rules for adoption to you on October 12th. So that's the first board meeting in the month of October. And then I just want to reiterate, it's going to take some while to rebuild or build the infrastructure and rebuild some of the infrastructure that we need to make this program viable into the coming year. So even if rules are accepted for adoption on October 12th, we really won't be able to accept licenses to, or applications, excuse me, for licenses until closer to the end of the year. So just want to reiterate that.
Do you still
again.
think before the end of the year? Will there be this year, this calendar year? Maybe?
Maybe,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Well, no, fair
It's one
enough.
of
I don't
those-
want to put you on the spot.
Yeah,
And we don't
highly
want to do it
tentative.
until we're ready.
Right,
There's a lot, and that's one of the things we'll continue to talk about between now and the end of the year, are all the different pieces that are at work here and that we're working in partnership with the Department of Commerce
Yeah.
and we have a lot of work to make sure we're ready.
I mean, at this point, we still, you know, when I say late fall, early winter, it could be December, it could be January,
Sure.
somewhere
Sure.
in that area.
Understood.
But just to your point, there is a lot going on behind the scenes to build infrastructure, and there's just so many moving parts into standing this program up. But
Yeah, and I think some of those are things that we heard from stakeholders that they wished were there before. And
Yes.
so now we're having that chance. So yeah, okay,
We are.
good.
other thing I wanted to say is there's just, as happens with some rule proposals, there are some typos in the text that we'll need to go back and correct. And those are non-substantive changes, so they would not trigger another hearing
Okay.
before we bring a final to you.
Member Garrett, any questions for social equity tomorrow?
No question, but Kathy, thank you. This has been a lot of work and effort to the entire staff, but thank you.
Oh, thank you for your ongoing support in this work. And we cannot forget to mention licensing here while we're,
That's right.
their work has just been extraordinary here. It's been wonderful to collaborate with all of us on this work and our stakeholders.
For
as
sure.
well.
Yeah, it's been great. Okay.
Thank you.
Good. All right, good. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, that brings us to our last item, which is just board member and executive assistant reports. Dustin, anything to share?
Nothing for me today. Thank you, Chair.
Member Garrett, any closing words for us today?
Well, since you put it that way, no closing words.
Okay. All right, thank you. None for me either, but we'll be back here tomorrow. I do encourage people to sign up for the public hearing on the social equity rule package. This is the opportunity, and hope that we have some good dialogue tomorrow on that. Looking forward to it. And with that, we will adjourn the board caucus meeting for September 13th. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.